Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to Season 7 of Console 1 here in Esports Masters League. It is round 9 of the Championship as we take in the Qatar Grand Prix from the Lusail International Circuit in perhaps, a Championship decider coming into tonight as well. My name is James Head. I'm going to be taking the stream, of course, as always, on this fine Wednesday evening. And joining me in the commentary box, it is the man of Wales. It is Mr. Michael Edwards. Mike, how you doing?
I am doing absolutely fantastic, James. Of course, we're getting to the crunch time of the season now. It's the penultimate round. We're here at Qatar. The championship, as you mentioned, could be wrapped up here tonight. And, oh, my hands are rubbing together. I'm excited for this one, James.
It is going to be very, very interesting indeed. You have left the session.
Oh, that is
Despite that, I was wondering who was missing. Oh, there's another driver just left the lobby. Hang on a minute. We are having a few issues within the lobby right now. But what we can do is, well, we can try and get everyone in. I'm not sure who has left, but somebody has left the session. Somebody is just joining back in now, so hopefully that'll be all A-okay. It is you, Mike, that is joining in. We are missing one of the GT10. I think it's Boyalulo that's left the session. So Boyalulo needs an invite in, if we can get him that. I'm doing
might have to restart.
You might have to restart
the game. Yeah, just because I am frozen in the spot and I can't click on the spectator, which is fantastic.
Oh god. Boyalulo's also crashed as well, so we're all good. We will wait then until Boyalulo can get in the session, and I am just gonna throw out an everyone message and tag literally everyone to wait, and hopefully they get the gist. Rens Thomason, of course, though, took the win in Belgium last week, and it was an ET8 1-2, and Owen finished off in second position. Owen 0.892 seconds off the back. Danny Van Rijten there in third on 1 second off the pace in the end of third. Fraser there in fourth with Karumi in fifth. Justin there in sixth. Agonized in seventh. Supply Raptor in eighth. Tom Roberts in ninth. And then Ryan rounding off the top 10. The settings have not been changed. We are just loading into the lobby now, is what I can report. If Boyalulo can hopefully join and not have any issues. If he does have issues, we will restart qualifying. Just to make it crystal clear, we will restart qualifying just because of him. But Rens Thomason out on top, Owen in second, Danny Van Rijten in third. While Mike attempts to join the session as well, we can actually have a discussion around about last week's race. Ren's taking that race win, Owen in second. Big points haul for ET8. Now 43 points through Team Chazoo coming into tonight.
Yeah, ET8, honestly, that was the perfect result for them after the disaster that was Silverstone a few weeks ago. And they have, basically, James, they have what I like to call one hand on the championship. It all depends on how they can perform here tonight against Team Chazoo, is head-to-head. And we are going to find out if ET8 are going to be crowned champions back-to-back tonight, or is it going to go into the final round next week?
Yeah, definitely. So, drivers are leaving the pit lane, by the way. I have told Boyalulo if he does have any issues, report them straight away, and then we can hopefully restart the session. Should be a quick turnaround if that is the case, because Boyalulo is currently not... Oh, actually, no, he is in the session. I'm an absolute fool. They are joining literally when I'm commentating, which is always good. But having a look at the standings coming into tonight, it is ET8 Esports out on top on 332 points. Team Chazoo in second on 289. NLR in third on 204.5. And then CPI in fourth on 160. BRT in fifth on 139.5. Team Xstoy is sixth on 134. Future Racing Team, not like the graphic that I put out earlier on. They are now in the correct position on 122 points in seventh. Grand Track 10 are in 8th on 115. Top Team Motorsport in 9th on 103. And Avisio there in 10th on 87 points. This is who you've got to look forward to out on track. Boyalulo and Deval there for GT10 Esports. Duncan and Karumi for EXT. Cameron, Dad and Tom for Team Chazoo. Urpek and Napple, interesting lineup there for CPI for them. And Matthias and Munlike there for EVE. Ryan and Yanel for NLR. Rens Thomason and Matteo, interesting pairing there for ET8. Dan and Agonize, another interesting pairing for FRT. Crowding and Oxu there for BRT. And then Nick and Josh Gilly there for TTM right down at the bottom end of the graphic, as we now can get out on track very shortly indeed. I will try and fling over an invite to Mike when he is ready. I'm sure
I
he'll...
am here.
You are here? Oh, you're already
I'm
in. Even better.
I'm already in.
Yeah, even better, even better. Who was the first man out on track? It is NLR Ryan. He
Ryan.
wanted to try and get on with things, and we'll run and pull now down in towards turn number 1, through the right-hander turn number 1, on board with the NLR man of Ryan. And I will turn the telemetry off, just to give you a better view of the left-hander turn number 3. Why?
Okay, you're back now,
I'm back?
Yeah, you got up.
Yeah, my OBS just decided to die and then reconnect back up. Anyways, Ryan is still on his lap, 56.6 in the middle sector. Oh, everything's going wrong for me today. Ryan coming through the right-hander now of turn number 14, through the left-hander now of turn number 15. We'll see, of course, what the German man can do in toward the right-hander of turn 16, and on the very short run, on the run toward the line, will the NLR man come as he flies now through the final corner, right on the curve very aggressively, but it should be round and wide of 120, I think, from Ryan to the line, 120.6 to start off the night. Neat lap there from Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. A very tidy lap from Ryan as Cameron Dowds there improves and Tom Roberts improves. Shazoo not messing around. They here to play on the opening lap here, James.
And Matteo, however, into the pit lane. So Matteo, interestingly, not out of qualifying. Obviously, he can set more runs, but he invalidates on his first run. Down in P20, right down the bottom end of the field. A man who was normally strong around here in qualifying, right down up against it early on. Josh Gilly through the middle sector, 57.1 in the middle sector, looking to try and go around about Duncan, Napple, that sort of area, I think, with this lap time from the TTM man as he now flies through the final corner. On the run toward the line comes the TTM man, and he does literally go around about crowding Josh Gilly, that sort of area. So very interesting stuff there from him. Diaval just going on to a lap time as well there for GT10. GT10, of course, making their debut last night in WR Legacy Division, and, of course, have been absolute paupers, I've got to say, here in EML recently as well, as the NLR, I was going to say the NLR man of Verpec, the former NLR man of Verpec, running now down in towards turn number 1. Now part of CPI, of course. Let's see what he can do out on track.
Back coming through turn 2, all valid, all on the track for the time being as he goes through turn 3 now in towards turn number 4 and number 5. 6th gear throws the car in just out wide and comes back inside the hookup. Turn number 5 first sector split, 29.9 James. Yeah,
29.9 indeed. Looking to try and go around about Tom, Cameron, Sergio, that sort of area. Probably in amongst, really, Ryan, Nick, Manlike further down the field as well. We've now come through the right-hander turn number 10. On board with the on board even with the CPI man of Urpec as he runs wide there, coming through turn number 10. Doesn't get the best exit possible, lose him a bit of time. This is going to be, I think, about a 57 through the middle sector. 56.6. 56.6, even though he made that slight mistake. Now coming through the treble right of turns 12, 13 and 14. We'll see what he can do on these final couple of corners, on these final runs, certainly on this lap at least, for 12 minutes and a half to go. Tom Roberts out on top, Cameron Dad in second, Sergio there in third. Urpec, though, looking to try and pull it up there. Former ET8 man, former NLR man now on the run line, takes out the DRS board for good measure, and in the end it's 7th, 20.6. Send a bit of polystyrene board right down the start-finish straight. And indeed, actually, Mike, he's set 100 slower than Munlike there in 6th, as Boylulo now is on a lap for GT10, about to come to the line, 56.6 in the middle sector, 120.8. So clearly, Boylulo not having any issues out on track.
No issues at all. Matteo about to get his lap underway, and this is going to be a big lap for the ET8 driver, as he's got to get himself up there, and he's got to get himself up there amongst the Shazoo lads, and to help out his teammate in Sergio.
Yep, definitely so. We'll ride on board then with Matteo coming through the right-hand return number 1. I will throw up that graphic, by the way, at the tail of the season. We did it at the halfway stage. We do it here tonight for potentially the championship decider as well. And it's a very interesting read, put it that way. As Matteo now comes into the right-hander return number 5. Now through the right-hand return number 6. And then into the left-hand return number 7. First sector split shows 29.8. So he is off on Tom and Cameron Dowds. But always Matteo around here is quicker in the race than he is in qualifying. His qualifying performances have been nothing short of dire, I've got to be honest, in the last few weeks. Of course, he took the race win in Australia on Monday night in PSGL, so he's definitely got good form coming into tonight. It's whether or not he can carry this form, though, through the middle sector. He's looked very good there, though, coming out of turn number 10, now through the kink of 11, in towards turn 12, 56.5, well and truly on track in the middle sector.
Yeah, Matteo absolutely flying as he's flying through the final sector now. And this will be interesting to see where he's going to measure up with Cameron Dowes and Tom Roberts. A very strong lineup for Team Suzuki here tonight. Matteo needs to put himself up there and amongst them as he comes through the final corner. Run to the line now for Matteo. Is it going to be provisional pole? It is going to be provisional pole. A 20.3 for Matteo.
And his teammate Sergio has just started up on a lap time as well. So, ET8 Team Jizu, ET8 currently in the top 4. Out on the standings right now. Ryan is just ahead of Sergio, better coming through the first sector split, currently in 5th position with a 20.6 as well. His first sector, 1200 up. Not competitive in the first sector compared to the likes of Matteo and Tom Roberts, but competitive nonetheless, especially through the middle sector. Sergio, 29.8 in the first sector, so very, very good first sectors being set, and Sergio, crucially, 800 up through the first sector, so he's looking to try and improve, probably, beyond the Team Jizu boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Sergio, of course, now coming through the middle sector, keeping it all nice and tidy at the moment.
Really nice.
As we're going to see what his middle sector split is as he approaches it right now. It's going to be an improvement.
Oh.
He's a 10.5 up, and this is looking good from Sergio.
He's a 10th up on Matteo in the middle sector. 56.5 for Matteo, 56.4 for Sergio, is now the Italian pairing of the ETA boys here tonight. Sergio now coming to the left-hand return 15, through the right-hand return number 16. This is a flying lap, quite literally, from Sergio as he now runs on the run to the line. 20.3, I'm going to go, Sergio. 23.55 in the end. Very good lap time. Tom Roberts, a 10th down in the first sector. Is he doing anything special in the middle? No, he's backed off on his lap time. Cameron Dowd, however, though, is now coming through the final couple of corners. Cameron's dad, as he's just invalidated coming through turn 15. Cameron's dad, by the way, there in the chat, coming in very, very late indeed. About 8 o'clock, I think he came in there, as Cameron now comes back in the pit lane. It is ET8, Team Jizu. Who wouldn't say EML follows in sync?
Yeah, and obviously Sergio, I mean, in terms of a driver, James, I mean, I got the privilege of watching him in PSGL F4 in this recent season just gone, and he was the race winner in F4, so he has got good form around here, and he is showing why he was very, very good, and he's shown why he's been selected here tonight for ET8.
And of course, I believe he's now part of PSGL PSF2's lineup, if I'm not mistaken. I swear I saw him there in Australia when I was watching before PSF1 on Monday. Crowding, by the way, improved up to 14, 20.888. BRT, of course, leading the standings, coming off the back of Qatar, off the back of Saudi Arabian Legacy Division. So they have got a very good lineup here tonight. Crowding normally very, very good, I think, in terms of his racing. Oku as well, pretty much an underdog, I've got to be honest there, for the BRT man. Down in 17th position, the Finn, 20.9. Don't know really a lot about him. I think this is his debut, if I'm not mistaken, in BRT tonight as well. Certainly in EML. Don't think it's his BRT debut overall, but he's definitely looking good there down in 17th position. Urpek, however, was looking good coming through the first sector, but he invalidated. Coming through turns 5 and 6, he was up in the first sector. Would he have been up in the middle if this lap was validated? Urpek middle, 56.5 was on par with Matteo in the middle sector.
Yeah, Urpek was looking very good until he just got a bit of a back end snap, and that was just enough to just send him slightly over the track limits, and that is a invalidation there for Urpek. So he stays P8 for the time being. 7 minutes to go in the session, James. And we're starting to see the difficulty of qualifying here, as everyone is pushing the limits and pushing them just a little bit too much on the track limits.
Yeah, definitely. So Diaval, by the way, to the line that goes 14th. So now GT10 13th and 14th out on track. Boy Leo, I believe, just starting up on his run as well. But these track limits are very, very violent around this track. You get caught in a curb around here, you could end up spinning the car, you could end up running off the track and invalidating your car, and in the end, it's probably not the best idea to be out there on track. I mean, I got robbed of a race win around here. That's my claim to fame, at least, that I can say in the commentary box around here in Qatar. Got robbed of the race win. It was a full wet race in Qatar, in League of Europe, and I got robbed thanks to Major Falcon, and thanks to a late safety car. So, thank you very much, Major Falcon. You're probably not tuning in right now, but thank you very much for that. Boyludo up, though. 600's down in the middle sector. So, Boyludo looking competitive. Not competitive enough, though, just yet on this lap.
But he's got plenty of time to make sure that he can improve on his lap time, because I think Boyolu is going to be looking to try and get in and amongst FRT Dan, EVE Matthias, and Agonize at the moment, as Aus is on board with Jano, who invalidates on his lap, yet to get a time on the board. Not good for the NLR driver. But yeah, I think that's exactly where, like Boyolu and we'll be looking at.
Potentially, though, could it be man-like? Could be man-like Mike, potentially, in EVE right now in P7. 20.632. Nick's just gone quicker than him, but he's a tenth and a half up in the middle sector. So EVE here to cook even Qatar tonight. Now coming to the right under turn 15. Turn 16 even. On the run toward the line with man-like. Good lap time. Goes third ahead of Tom Roberts, who's just through the first sector split, 200s up. Cameron Dowd's not sure about his first sector split, but he's coming through the middle sector right now. We're right on board with the Team Zoo boys. However, we won't, because Cameron Dowd's Cameron Dowd even has just invalidated with a 56.5 in the middle sector, coming through the left-hand return number 10. So Cameron ran out wide. Tom now coming through the same part of the track. He again runs out wide, but not as far as what Cameron did. He's valid on this lap time. Is he going to be improving in the middle sector? 56.5. He is not improving in that middle sector for a man that's... Well, got to be honest, from the steward's point of view, we caused a lot of controversy last week with him and Owen, who is there in the chat, by the way.
As FRT Dan pops up the interprovisional pole, nipping ahead of Matteo by 5 thousandths of a second, James.
And let's see what Sergio can respond with in this middle sector as well. Oh, he's 300s up. Sergio 300s up. Bang on target for Dan. Maybe to go 3 thousandths quicker than him at this moment in time. Dan, Matteo, Sergio currently a top 3. Tom Roberts, man like Nick, Cameron Dow to invalidate again on another run. Down in 7th. He did start, I think, P13 around here, if I'm not mistaken, as Sergio invalidates coming through the final corner. A lot of track limits being picked up here right now. Tom was up in the first sector, actually just came off his lap. Nick not on a run either. And just fine as well, Mike, further down the field, Urpek and Oku there for BRT have got exactly the same lap time. BRT, man, just set the lap time after, of course.
Yeah, and Urpek in the pits, obviously he has looked like he can improve. Urpek is about keeping it on the track within the limits. Agonized on his way back into the pits, and I think now, James, we're entering the calm before the storm.
Napple's looking good on a run toward the line. Goes 9th position in the end, 20.5. Just caught the end of his run there. Pretty decent run, actually, from the CPI man of Napple. I believe Napple, if I'm not mistaken, was he former EVE? And he never got used for EVE at the start of the season? Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody from EVE there in the chat, or from somebody from CPI there in the chat even. Now part of the CPI team. He's there in 9th position, 20.5. 2,000 slower than Matthias, who is part of EVE. So it is literally everyone now filtering out once again to go on their final runs, and potentially their final runs. Yanel definitely needs a run. Down there in P20. NLR, I said to you, Mike, just before we came live, expect them to be up there. Right now, Ryan, P10, Yanel, P20. Am I right or am I wrong? Probably wrong.
I mean, right now, it's not looking good for your prediction about NLR being up there, but you never count out Ryan, and Yanel can pull a lap out when he needs to, and he's under pressure to get that lap on the board, but you can never write off NLR in terms of bringing out a lap when they need to, and they're under pressure right now.
Yeah, Yanel's, I think, second appearance of the season, if I'm not mistaken. I think he appeared, was it in the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort? I believe he might have appeared. Anyways, he's on the run now down in towards turn number 1. No disappearing act, I'm sure, for Yanel as he now comes through the right-hander now of turn number 1, that 500-metre run down from the start-finish line down in towards turn number 1. We'll see what Yanel can do, though, on this lap time. Now coming through, flicking it left through 3, now through the right-hander of turn number 4. This has looked a decent setup on his lap so far. The NLR man now coming through the right-hander of turn number 5. Now through the right-hander of turn number 6. The Dutchman looking pretty good. That car looks absolutely hooked up through the first sector. But his first sector is not good. 30 flats in the first sector compared to the top guys in the 29.8. In theory, already, Mike, he's 2 tenths down.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for Yanel out there at the moment. I'm currently on board with Cameron Dowds, as he's just gone for the first sector, 29.907 in the first sector. So that just shows the difference between Yanel and Cameron Dowds here.
And Janel's middle sector, for comparison, 56.8 in that middle sector split. So definitely going to be looking to try and improve. Mateo's just started up on his lap, running down in towards turn number 1 there as well. Smeg saying in the chat, where's Oscar? Oscar not racing here tonight. It is Tom Roberts replacing him for Team Shazoo, and he's currently there in 4th, and it's not a bad replacement at all, I've got to say, from Team Shazoo right now. Janel, however, though, needs a good lap. In the end, doesn't get one. He's unlucky for some. 13th position. Let's run on board with the man you on board with. Cameron Dowd, 400s up in the middle sector. Now flying through the final corner is the Flying Scotsman. Going to top the session once again. Cameron Dowd's now on the run to the line. No, 20.4, 5th position, and in the end goes behind Sergio, who is huge in the first sector. 700s up through the first sector from Sergio. Mateo about to come through the middle sector as well. Napple has retired there back into the pit lane. Dan, though, still currently top in the session for FRT, and he is just starting up on his run through turn 1.
Yeah, Dan currently top of the time for Mateo's over a 10th and a half lap, so it's not over just yet, James.
And Sergio's invalidated in behind as well, so Mateo needs an absolute huge lap. And this is a huge lap coming in from the Italian stallion. Now coming to the left-hander 15. In toward the right-hander now, turn number 16. Boy Leo there retiring out on track out of everyone's harm way. Mateo, though, on the run to the line. Does he improve? Is it a 20.2? 20.1 from Mateo. Are you kidding me? Fantastic lap time from him. Tom Roberts is all out of shape coming through turn number 7 as I run on board with him there. 500s up in the first sector. Dan about to come through the middle sector split. Let's run above with the FLT, man. 500s up again. Nowhere near Mateo's 56.1 in the middle sector. So Dan absolutely trying to gun it. He's now coming through the final couple of corners. He's very low on ERS as well. I can see that on the steering wheel. Very low on ERS to use up. Coming now through the left-hander at 15. Now through the right-hander at turn number 16. Sergio there in 4th. Nick, by the way, won 3rd for TTM. Big lap time from the Frenchman. Dan now on the run to line. Does he improve? Yes, he does, but he doesn't improve position. Tom Roberts, he is invalidated, not improving on a run. Ryan not improving on a run. I think, apart from Josh Gilly, is he on a run? No, he's not. That is the end of qualifying. End of qualifying. And in the end, Mateo on top. Dan in 2nd. Nick there in 3rd. Our Unk is back.
Advantage ET8 here tonight, James. Mateo on pole position, Sergio in P4, and then you got the Team Shazoo pairing of Tom Roberts and Cameron Dowd in 6th and 7th place. It's going to be interesting because the time's very, very close from 3rd all the way down to 9th.
Look at 7th to 9th. 7th to 9th, they're exactly the same lap time. I've never seen that since probably F1 Esports or F1 Sim Racing in Britain on the PS side. Certainly there was 3 drivers setting the same lap time in qualifying, and I think exactly the same thing with Qatar. Cameron Dowd, Ryan and Manlike cannot be split in there in 7th, 8th and 9th, and in the end Cameron Dowd being in the top 10 I think was absolutely crucial. Tom being in the top 10 is absolutely crucial as well, potentially to pick up points. But let's have a look though at the order of the day from qualifying, and it's Mateo out on top by a 10th of a second from Dan there in 2nd for FRT, TTM there in 3rd with Nick. So top 3 teams separating the top 3 positions. Very neatly done indeed. Sergio there in 4th, Urpek in 5th, Tom Roberts there in 6th, Cameron in 7th, Ryan in 8th, Manlike in 9th, and then Matthias rounding off the top 10. Karumi, Agonize, Napple, Oku, and then Janel top 15, 5/10 of a second covering the top 15. Diaval on his debut for GT10 there in 16th, with Duncan, Boy, Leo, Crowding, and Josh Gilly, 7.5 tenths, just under, covering the full complement of our drivers here out on track tonight. 20 drivers about to do war here in Qatar. We are going to be back with you in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to Esports Masters League. It is Con 1. It is round 9 of the championship as we take in the Qatar Grand Prix, a potential championship decider. There are the standings coming into tonight. E8 leading the way on 332 points. Team Chazoo in second on 289, 43 points separating coming into tonight. And I can actually put that on because there is the tale of Season 7 so far between ET8 and Team Chazoo. 7 pole positions combined for ET8. Only one, Danny Van Ruiten, in, I think, the Silverstone, if I'm not mistaken. Only one for Team Chazoo. 5 wins for ET8, 3 wins for Team Chazoo. 17 podiums combined between them both. 9 going for ET8, 8 going for Team Chazoo. And the points is what everyone wants to see. 332 for ET8, 289 for Team Chazoo. A 43-point difference heading into Qatar. And Mike, after that qualifying session, it is, quite simply, advantage ET8.
Yeah, absolutely major advantage to ET8. Not only Matteo getting on pole position, but both drivers out-qualifying both Team Chazoo drivers. Team Chazoo backs against the wall now. They want to keep this championship alive going into the final round. And, you know, never write off Team Chazoo. That's all I'm going to say. Never write them off.
Never write them off, indeed. And that was a very, nice sync, I've got to be honest, into the lobby. We are now about to get racing, of course, out on track. The drivers will be given the cue to ready up, of course, by our lobby host. I was going to say something else there. By our lobby host with NLR Ryan. But it is simply quite advantageous for ET8 coming into tonight. What we worked it out as, or what I worked it out as, is they need to basically outscore Team Chazoo by 12 points. Team Chazoo need to outscore ET8 by no matter what points, to be honest. And they can remain in contention with 56 points available going into the final round of the season, with first and second plus the fastest lap. So that is going to be really intriguing indeed. And in terms of strategies around this track as well, Mike, it could be rather interesting because we could see somebody doing the Dirk, as I'm now calling it around here, and getting potentially puncture final lap of the race and trying to take this hard to 24 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And tyres are going to be an issue if you have to make an early pit stop. That is for sure. You're going to be hoping for a safety car to kind of bring you back into the race. I do remember fuel has also been a major issue in the past as well. I don't think it is anymore, but I do remember fuel being an issue, so making sure that their fuel loads are good enough to get themselves to the end, that'll be something that the drivers will have to keep an eye on. And obviously that long run down the start-finish straight, James, key overtaking opportunity into turn 1, and it's just one of those, if you've got a driver within a second of you, he's probably going to be in front of you going into the braking zone.
Are we going to run it back, though, with what happened in PSGL, PSF1 around here a couple of weeks ago? Matteo, Renz, Cameron Dowd, side by side. Now, Renz, of course, is not here, but in the end, it is going to be really interesting to see how everything pans out and how that short run down and towards turn number 1 will really plague how this race is approached, I think, from the driver's perspective. The ready up has now been given, so we should be on the 30-second countdown very soon indeed, if we aren't already. And now, I want your guys' predictions in the chat. Plenty of predictions there going for Urpec, with the gold peck there in the chat and being pinned on our chat. I'm immediately going to go Cameron Dowds for the race win. Team Chazoo taking it to the final round.
I'm gonna go Matteo for the race win, and I'm gonna go ET8 wrapping it up here tonight.
Well, you can now see who is the Team Chazoo bias within the stewards here in the commentary box. That is for sure. I generally think, though, how this race is going to pan out. Matteo is normally very strong in the race. I don't think he's going to get away by a second, though. That is what's going to be the crucial thing, I think, for me. That's why I'm leaning Cameron Dowd's ERS usage around here. We are about to find out, though, because the 5 red lights are about to go out here in Qatar. Round 9 of the championship, and it is lights out and away we go. Matteo gets a very good start. Dan gets a very good start alongside him as well, but Matteo is off like a shot down in towards turn number 1. will lead coming in towards turn number 1 as well. Dan holding the inside line there in second. Urpex side by side with Nick in behind with Tom Roberts and Cameron Dowds also filtering through. Everyone, I think, is clean through in the background. Duncan getting slightly out of shape there with Josh Gilly right at the back end, ground of shot. But Mateo there leading the way. Dan in second. Sergio there in third. Nick still side by side with Tom Roberts now coming through the left-hander of turn number 5. And in fact, actually, he tries to go all the way around the outside of him. There's a bit of carbon fibre or a bollard or something flying there in the background. Is it Agonize? It is Agonize, I think, who is in absolute agony there. Right side and plate damage on the car. He is round. That yellow flag is for him. Catching up in an instant, coming through turn number 4, and nearly an instant there as Nick nearly goes cascading into the back of Ryan.
Yeah, almost into the back of, he did touch the back of Tom Roberts. That almost had a knock-on effect of Ryan getting caught up in that as well. The Team Shadoo lads working together, trying to come through the field as a duo, side by side with Nick for majority of this opening lap, but Nick now down into P8, looking at the back of NLRN.
And everyone, by the way, has been boring. Thanks, guys. They're on a set of hard compound tyres. Every single driver is on a set of hard compound tyres right down the bottom end of the field. Janel's made a good start as well, right from the bottom end. Position gains early on. He's gained 3. Most positions gained, actually, is from him and Josh Gilly, getting 3 respectively. Dan sending the sights on Mateo, though, for the race lead. You can see Agonize there, pulling into the pit lane in the background of shot. He might retire the car. I think, though, we'll try and continue on in case there is a VSC or a safety car to try and go on in this race. Mateo, though, leading the way. Dan there in second. Sergio there in third. In the early stages of this Grand Prix, everyone not really using their ERS. That's what Francesco was saying there in the chat. Mateo there on 95. Dan on 97. Sergio on 100. Urpek on 100. Cameron Dowds on 73. So the front 4, at least the front 4, are saving up on that. ERS usage, though, coming in from behind. There's an instant further down the field. Manlike to the inside line of Nick has caused absolute chaos now. Coming to the right under turn number 6. Now to the right under now of turn number 7. Manlike gets caught on the back of Nick. Caused a big Constantina effect in behind. But in the end, crucially, Manlike is still behind Nick. If Nick was behind Manlike, that might have gone to the stewards.
Yeah, and I think potentially Nick might have a bit of damage on his car after tapping the back of Tom Roberts, because he has dropped off massively, and it does look like he's not really taking the corners as flush as what he was earlier on in this race.
I wonder, though, if it was just maybe a cold set of hard compounded tyres out on track as well. Obviously, he dropped position throughout the field. Clearly, damage is not good enough to try and continue on, so it's not as aggressive as what it could be. Speaking of aggressive, 4 wide in towards turn number 1. What on earth is Cameron Downs doing to the inside line? Trying to get the move done. That is absolutely insane. Absolute insanity from the Flying Scots. But Mateo and Sergio get the block on, though, of Cameron Downs. Cameron Downs has got to be careful. The ETA boys have got to be careful as well, as there Mateo fights with Cameron Downs to the right-hand side. ETA immediately getting the elbows out. I do not blame them. Cameron Downs, though, in the end, makes a bit of contact with Urpek, gets the job done, and now Tom tries to fly around the outside of turn 7.
And he's going to get the traction on the outside. He's going to be side by side coming in towards turn number 8 now, as he's side by side. Tom Roberts on the inside.
Nice.
On the outside, and yeah, Tom Roberts gets the job done. And now, James, is Team Shadoo versus Team 88.
And what did I say at the start of the stream? Potential championship decider. This is what it's going to be. Side by side, the Ryan trying to go around the outside of Urpek. Through the right under 12, 13 and 14. Nearly repeats the Lafiti Mubarak incident in Legacy Division around here. Nearly comes off the worst. And in the end, Ryan loses 4 tenths of a second to Nick. Nick back within DRS range. In the end, I think it's more on Ryan than it was on Urpek. Urpek clearly gave him the room. Ryan just decided to try and sail it around the outside anyways. And in the end, he was on the wrong part of the track. Shouldn't have went for the move. And in the end, he's behind Urpek.
Yeah, Dan leads the way. Sergio closing in with DRS, but not close enough to go for the move. Mateo holding on to P3 right now. Cameron Downs in P4. Tom Roberts in P5. And now everyone is bunching back up together as well. And I think the only split is a split on the edge of DRS for Oxku down in 15th place.
Yeah, 15th, 16th. I think it is relatively easy, though, to try and catch back up. Boyleo and Duncan having their own private fight there through turn number 4. Boyleo getting the job done. The old French pairing, of course, of GT10 and Team Extoria here tonight as well. So the old French battle there for P18. going on there, and Boyle getting the move done on Duncan. But Dan leading the way, Sergio in second, Matteo there in third. We talk about how this is going to be ETA versus Team Jazoo. But let's not forget Urpek, Ryan, and especially the man in front, Dan, in all of this. Because Dan, at the minute, is in, what, first position out on track. He's 4 tenths clear of Sergio Matteo. What the hell does he do in all of this? Because does he want to see, really, ETA battle Jazoo? Or does he want to try and let ETA get away, and then Team Jazoo are catching in terms of the DRS? And at the minute, Cameron Dowd looking pretty weak, I've got to say, through this lap. 6 tenths off the back. He was 8 tenths off the back there briefly. And Cameron now trying to close up. Sergio going for the move on Dan for the race lead. There is your answer for what Dan is going to do. Dan is going to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I don't think Dan really wanted to fight that too much. But in terms of what I think Dan will end up doing, he's just going to drive his race. He obviously personal point for him to prove out here as well. You know, trying to get the race win. Obviously, that'll be big points for FRT as well. And we're organised all the way down in 20th place. I mean, he is flying the flag, and that is a car off, and I think that's Duncan.
It is Duncan coming through turn number 3 and 4. I think he's got caught on the outside curb. Maybe spun the car around. There is no visible damage on the car. So I think just a slight moment there from the Frenchman down in 19th position. Sergio, though, trying to break away from Matteo. 6 tenths of a second gap. Matteo there in second. Dan there in third. Dan, I totally agree with you. Thinking about his own race right now. Jab there in the chat also saying Yanel's on a rampage. And Yanel is on a rampage because he's up into 9th position. Behind now the likes of Nick, the likes of Ryan. And he mentioned there with Nick potentially having that damage. I don't think he has, because he's running in the ERS quite comfortably now. Yes, it's 7 tenths of a second between him and Ryan, but he's looking a lot more comfortable out on track than what he was in the past. So I think maybe just the cold set of hard compound of tyres, as my Elgato has decided to cut the sound of the camera off. Give me a second.
We got Dan closing in on Matteo, not going to look for a move down the inside. And right now, I think what Cameron Dowes and Tom Roberts were doing collectively there, obviously, he had to use a little bit of VRS to try and get through the first couple of cars. And now it's about recharging the batteries. But here goes Dan to the inside of Matteo. This is going to be fantastic. It's Dan's on the inside, and then Cameron Dowes trying to squeeze through as well.
Trying to go through the inside line through turn number 6. Now for the left-hand side, coming through the left-hand of turn number 7. Tries to go all the way around the outside. Flying Scotsman against Italian style. The Flying Scotsman gets out on top. Matteo knows how to battle that as well. And in the end, he's just let him go. Really neat driving between them both. Cameron Dowd in third. Matteo there in fourth. Tom Roberts there in fifth. So now Matteo is caught in a pocket. Sergio can now extend out in front from an ETA perspective. He can now put down under pressure. Cameron Dowd is there. Matteo is there. Tom is there. And do you know what? I think Jazoo have got Matteo isolated and in exactly the place that they want him.
Yeah, absolutely. Matteo is not where he wants to be in the middle of a Team Jazoo sandwich right now. But Matteo can get his way out.
Is he going for the move?
In fact,
no way. Tom trying to go around the out, was switching to the inside on there, trying to go all the way around the outside through 16, never going to work. Tom knows to behave best than that, down towards the final quarter, turn number 16. Let's hope he doesn't reel off and cause a 3-wide moment in towards turn 1 like he did last night in Saudi Arabia. There goes Matteo to the inside on Cameron Dowd. Cameron Dowd that force off with the dirty air slightly, tries to preserve his run on the outside, coming through 1, coming through 2, and he does. He gets ahead of Matteo once again. But this is fascinating, this race.
Yeah, and of course, Tom needs to be wary of Urpek in behind because he is over the rear wing of that Ferrari in front.
He is indeed. And do you know what? I think this is all going to come up. Tom to the inside on Matteo. Matteo was slow coming out of the corner, to be fair. And now Tom is side by side. Are Jazoo going to have him exactly in the same spot as what he did last lap around? At the minute, the answer is yes, because Matteo, again, is isolated compared to Sergio in the lead. Dan there in second, Cameron Dowd in third. Each 8 are probably right now, probably going through plan B, C, D, all the way down to Z, quite literally, in terms of what they do in this race. And at the minute, they're probably on plan C. Not too much concern, but in the end, I think Sergio's just being told to hold back a little bit, bring Dan with him, and then try and get Matteo in a position where he can overtake Cameron Dowd. That's where the play is.
Yeah, I think they're also hoping that Tom and trying to make the move on Matteo. We've seen when drivers go for a move so far in this race, we've seen how it opens the door for the drivers in behind. So if Mateo's able to hold off Tom, that could open the door for Urpek and Ryan to try and get through. As Dan takes the race lead, Cameron Dowse to the inside in turn 1. Tom Roberts on the outside of Mateo through turn 1 as well, and gets a good run.
Look at Urpek though on the outside coming through turn number 2, now through 3, now through the right-hand turn number 4. He's there! Oh, he causes contact! And he's lost damage! There is damage, I think it's for Urpek, I think. Left side end plate damage on the car. It is. It's not Tom Roberts. I thought it was Tom. It's not. It is Urpek. He's got left side end plate damage on the car. Tom Roberts there and 8. Tom probably thinking, what on earth are you doing there, Urpek? Urpek probably thinking, what on earth are you doing there, Tom? Really difficult one to try and fight out in the player battle, in the heat of battle. That might go to the stewards. Urpek's got damage, that's for sure. And do you know what? Tom Roberts there down in 8th position. Hasn't got any visible damage, but Urpek's going to cause Team Shazoo and Tom a lot of time. Perfect right now for ET8.
Yeah, I mean, we just said that, you know, Team Shazoo had Mateo exactly where they wanted him. Now, ET8 have Cameron Dowse exactly where they want him.
Yep.
Isolated away from Tom.
Yeah, totally agree. And at the end of the day, I think this is going to be fascinating because now Urpek is running a really wounded car and Nick tries to try and look all the way around the outside. There's a bit of lag kicking in there actually for Nick going on the outside line. Forced off track there by Urpek. Going to give Tom potentially the run now down and towards turn of 1 on the back of both of them. Does he just try and bide his time? He's got very limited ERS and now he's under pressure from Yano, who was, as Jav mentioned, on an absolute rampage. Trying to go around the outside. In the end, locks up a little bit too late and doesn't go for the move coming through turn number 1 as well. Adam wants in the battery there for P13. I'm worldwide on board with that. DML's got 51%. Crowding's got 80%. So no need for any worry if you're a BRT fan right now.
Yeah, as Nick picks up the first, or the second time penalty of the evening, and he's just outside that 1 second of the top 5, and we're starting to see the split begin to form, and this is horrible if you're Tom Roberts.
Man, like, got Napple to the inside line. Sorry to cut you off there briefly. Man, like, through into 10th position. Did do well around here in PSGL, PSF4, you were telling me.
Yeah, he managed to come across the line in P2 in F4 last season. Of course, it was Sergio that did take the victory. Man, like, did finish in 2nd place, so both of them have good experience of showing their pace around here at Qatar. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're squaring up. Obviously, Sergio right now up in P3, doing very well for himself.
Definitely so. Nordic Ninja, by the way, has just landed from, I believe, from Italy back to Finland, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully the flight was well. Luckily, no flying here tonight in Qatar, and it is, with Qatar Airways, sponsored Grand Prix, Cameron to the race lead, and Sergio immediately follows through. Dan doesn't want anything to do with that battle. I love how he's approaching this race right now. He's like, screw it, I don't want anything to do with this. Yano does want something to do with Tom Roberts, though, right in the background of the shot, trying to go around the outside now, through turn number 3, through the right-hand turn number 4, doesn't get leaned on like he did with Urpek 2 laps ago, and now Tom tries to go all the way around the outside, but in the end, Yano, inside line prevails and gets the move done.
Yeah, and Yano getting through there. Tom was had a little look on the inside line, but not going to make that move stick. And right now, obviously, Urpek with that wing damage, as you mentioned, obviously, he's causing a little bit of a blockade for Yano and Tom. And Nick right now, with no DRS, is just falling further and further behind the top 5. So this is going to be a long race if you are Urpek, Yano, or Tom Roberts here.
And look at what is happening up the front end of the train as well. We're only on lap 10 out of 29. It may as well be lap 29 out of 29 for how this race has gone so far. Cameron leading the way, Sergio there in 2nd, Dan there in 3rd. This race tactically fascinating, but now Cameron has just held up the train a little bit. Nick is back within DRS range this lap around. Absolutely crucial for Urpek, crucial for Yano, crucial for Tom. That was the ploy, I think, all along for Cameron. Try and get Tom back within DRS range. Now Sergio sets his sights, standing towards turn 1, job done. Dan trying to go around the outside of turn 1, job done. And now Cameron has to fend off the Italian stallion once again in behind. In the end, he ends up side by side with Dan coming out through turn 1, now through the left-hander 2, through the left-hander 3, and in the end, it's Dan, job done, through these into 2nd, Cameron remaining in 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly what Cameron Dowse needed to do to try and help Tom, but Tom got overtaken by Napple. So Tom now outside the top 10, and Urpek with that wing damage is falling outside the DRS range, and now Cameron is not leading the race to back up the pack anymore.
Yeah, definitely so. Owen there saying in the chat, did someone's lag make Tom drop to 9th? No, not at the end of the day. And in the end, Tom is still all the way down in P11. What on earth has happened there? He's been overtaken by Manlike and the likes as well. Napple there now ahead of him. Tom there down in 11th. Not sure what happened there with Tom. Missed that completely on my end. So Tom there down now at 11th. Under pressure from Matthias. With that contact that him and Erpek had, has Tom got damage on that car? I'd be interested to know from Team Jazoo if that is the case.
But essentially, one thing I will say is that Tom was incredibly low on his battery after that incident happened. So I think he spent a little bit of time trying to recharge it, get back to a healthy amount, and now we're going to see him begin to attack.
And now, speaking of attacks, there goes Yanel, there goes Manlike, there goes Napple, there goes Tom Roberts to the inside of Erpek. Can't fight! Oh, Tom nearly into the back there of the CPI man of Napple. Just about comes out on top. Erpek tries to loop it around the outside of him in the background. CPI parked the bus right now. Tom tries to get the inside line. Now coming through 3, now coming through 4. Nearly ends up in a bit of a pot and now forces all the way to the right-hand side of the track. Tom, like him back in his IFR days, I've got to be honest right now, from Tom's perspective, fighting very aggressively, looks to the inside line, absolutely cascades it to the inside line. Is Tom Roberts beginning to lose his head potentially just ever so slightly? I think maybe so, because he looks to the inside line now on the back of Napple, both of them sideways. In the end, Napple comes out on top, but Tom Roberts ending up like back in his IFR days right now around here.
Yeah, and he picks up a 3-second time penalty to boot with that. I think Tom definitely getting frustrated with the CPI lads. That is for sure. And with that, obviously, Napple has dropped outside the DRS range on Manlike. So you got to think that Tom will be able to just get this done with DRS, and hopefully that will be the end of it.
Jab's comment is absolutely classic. What can we expect from an Evertonian in red? That is terrible. I'll tell him you said that after this stream. He will look at the live chat, I'm sure, later on. Sergio leads the way. Dan in second, Cameron in third, Matteo in fourth, Ryan in fifth. Nick there in sixth. Crucially, no damage, I think, now on that car. We can definitely say that. No damage on the car. He's on the back of this train. He has got a 3-second penalty, but I've got to argue he's looking quicker than Ryan and Matteo right now.
Joe definitely is very good around this track, that is for sure. Dan with a fantastic showing at the moment. He's holding it very well up the front in P2, and keeping Cameron Dowes and Matteo in behind is no small feat, that is for sure for Dan. So FRT looking very good for some good points here.
Yeah, FRT looking for very good points indeed. DFL, by the way, getting the move done on Matthias. I was better flick on board with this because we're getting the BRT guys in the chat wanting the battery. There is damage, by the way, for Matthias on the left side end plate. Just noticed that on the left-hand side. Not sure what happened. Might have been in that gaggle of cars with Napple, Tom, Yanel and Erpek and the likes. May have picked up a bit of damage from there. DFL now into 12th, Matthias in 13th. Now what BRT have got to worry about within this race is that damage ahead of them. How much is it going to cost them coming through the corners? Because that is full left side end plate damage on the car. And you can just tell that because Matthias has ran wide. 3-second penalty now. And this is now Groundhog Day for the man of EVE in the Williams. As Cameron Dowd set to sight on Sergio. Down in towards turn 1. Set to sight on Dan. And it's job done for Cameron Dowd in the race lead. But does he want to be there? Probably not.
No, probably not. And if you are Team Shazoo right now, are you possibly thinking about an undercut here for Tom Roberts at this point in the race?
Maybe so. Maybe so. He's going to have to try something to try and get back within contention. Because right now, he's what, 1.6 seconds off the pace to Yanel? Yanel and Manlike are 1.2 off the back of this train. If Manlike and Yanel bring Tom and Napple with them, then they're on the back of the train. Nick to the inside line and Ryan. Was that a mistake from Ryan? Or was that just Nick purely to the inside line? Might have been the latter. And Nick has got the move done on Ryan. So Nick through and he's into 5th. And Evil, by the way, in the chat saying, you can't say someone looks quicker while they're in a DRS train. That's just proving my point. Move done. He's through and he's into 5th.
Well, I tell you what. We can't argue with that logic, but Dan is all over the back of Cameron Dow's, almost pushing him through for the final sector, and Dan should be able to get this move done, but will Sergio and Matteo be able to follow suit and get the overtake up into a 1-2 position?
Continue for a couple of seconds. My TV is going to turn itself off. Hang on.
Okay, well, here we go as Dan now is going to switch the inside, Sergio to the outside. Sergio is going to be able to hold it around the outside. Dan on the inside, Cameron Dow's dropped down into P3. And Mateo's
P4.
managed to sneak through around the outside as well. He's down the inside now for turn number 2. Mateo and Cameron Dow side by side, and Cameron Dow's dropped down to P4 in this race. Sergio now up in
Cameron!
the race. Mateo in P3.
Cameron nearly to the inside line there on Mateo. Cameron Dowd's now all of a sudden looking pretty rattled. But this is to try and get Tom Roberts back into play with the DRS train. And that's exactly what he's now done. He's got the back of the train. Man like Janel and Napple have followed him through as well with that. So it's now a 10-car train once again for the race lead. And remember, there hasn't been any pit stops in this race just yet. But we have seen pit stops further down the field. Diaval in, Urpek in, Agonised in. Not surprised with Urpek. Did he get his front wing changed, though? Yes, he did. So. Urpek did. Yeah, that's why he's behind Karumi. Out on track. Agonised still continuing on. Needs a safety car to get back in this. Diaval into the pit lane on a set of mediums. And actually, with Urpek having that damage, Diaval could be there to actually gain a few positions from this.
Yeah. Absolutely, he could definitely gain a few positions. He's gone for the undercut, Dan in, so we expect Dan to be moving up the order into a bit of a healthy lead. We're about if the likes of Sergio Mateo and Cameron Dow's will be able to come back at them. Obviously, lap 16 of 29 is an ETA 1-2 at the moment. Cameron Dow's for Team Shazoo in P3, Nick in P4, but he does have that time penalty. Ryan right now in P5 with Manlike in P6.
Yep, and then following on from that, Janel, Napple, Tom Roberts completing the top 9 with Oku there in 10th. Josh Gilly, Dan, Crowding, Boy, Leela, Matthias, Diaval, Karumi, Urpek, Agonise the top 19. Duncan, of course, retiring out of the race early on. I did say Diaval could be there to gain a few positions, and now he's ahead of BRT Crowding. So that a very, very good gap that he's got as well. 2 seconds over the BRT man. That's obviously their fight in the mid-pack, but he's only 4 seconds off Dan. And do you know what? If these guys hold off a little bit longer in pitting in, Diaval's going to be in that train, isn't he?
Yeah, you might even get the jump on the likes of Napple and Tom Roberts at the tail end of this train as well. So, I mean, David Al is going to be climbing up a few positions with this undercut strategy he's got.
Definitely so. GT10, by the way, if you've got a representative in your chat, am I pronouncing Diaval right? That is what I'm going with in this stream, so please let me know if that is the case. But Sergio now splitting the strategy for ET8. Sergio into the pit lane, and he's the only one to come in. The only one to come in, which I kind of guess I'm not surprised with, because the mediums do go off quick around this track. But is Sergio now factoring track position over anything else?
Off track, sorry to cut in there, James. Nick squeezed way in off track coming through turn number 1, and it was almost carnage. And look at that now. The top 2 have broken away by a second, and if Diaval wasn't going to get the jump on these 2 before, he possibly could now.
And Diaval is ahead of Josh Gilly, ahead of Oku. He's not ahead of Sergio, though, coming out of the pit lane, but he is about 4 seconds off the back of Sergio and Dan. Again, very good news, because he's now isolated the BRT boys to 2 seconds in behind. Man like that, getting the move done on Ryan through turn number 7, pretty much where Nick, I think, did that a couple of laps ago. Now, Ryan following, Man like even following suit on Ryan. So, Man like through these into 4th, Ryan there in 5th. But what this has done is bring Cameron Dowd into play in this race. It has now brought Nick outside of 1.2 seconds. If he's got any damage, it's hardly visible, but he is losing those tyres now. Cameron Dowd is sticking on the back of Mateo. They haven't used up a lot of ERS. Maybe they are going a little bit later in this race and just trying to work each other out. Actually, screw that. Mateo's in the pit lane. Mateo's straight in the pit lane. As soon as I said that, Man like, oh my God! What the hell happened there? Man like into the pit lane. Nick has ended up being 5 seconds behind. What the hell has gone on there?
I have absolutely no words for what's going on there.
Speechless.
I honestly have no words.
I'm going to rewind that back. I caught that on stream there, and I'm going to rewind that back. It's just gone cascading into the back. Man like has just gone cascading into the back of Nick. There's got to be desync there from Nick. I mentioned it, I think, a little bit earlier on as Matthias retires out the race. I mentioned it earlier on that I thought I saw him with a little bit of a lag spike, trying to go around the outside, I think, to turn 16. And that's now what has happened there with Nick again. So is Nick potentially decent compared to a few drivers out on track? And if that is the case, Stewart's definitely going to be busy.
Yeah, and just an update on Diwali in P9. He's on the back in DRS range on Man Like, so that shows how good his undercut was.
And he's ahead of Yanel, which I think is absolutely crucial in that battle as well. He is ahead of Yanel. Cameron Dowd still continuing on out in front, as is Napple, I think. Tom and Ryan into the pit lane, which means Cameron will come into the pit lane this lap around. Oh, this race is going to be fascinating to the end of the race. Matthias there, retiring out of the session, leaving the session as well. Sergio currently, what you could say is a net P1. Dan currently a net P2. Matteo currently a net P3, potentially out on track. As now they come down the start-finish rate once again. Dan, again, very interesting, I think, in this battle. He's just let ET8 and Shazoo in their own private battle, and he's thought about his own race. And again, he thinks about his own racing towards turn 1. Doesn't go for the move on the back of Sergio. Just wants to end up in the best possible position. Honestly...
Oh, Tom! Crowding coming through turn number 1. I did not see Tom Roberts coming up the pit lane, and the contact was made. Tom almost went straight around. But, my God, how Tom kept that from spinning around, I have no idea.
Move done. Yeah, a move done as well, because he gets the fresher tyres on Oku, and in the end, job done for him. He's through and he's into 11th position. What I was just about to say there, Dan is thinking about his own race, with Sergio there in the net lead, and Sale there in a net P3 potentially out on track. And Dan, I think, as we've got a migrating host, Ryan has left the session. I'll try and get him back in if I can. Dan there in 4th, Matteo there in 5th. At this moment in time. But what I was about to say there, Dan in P4, right at this moment in time, doing a fantastic job. And do you know what? He could be one of the favourites to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, with the issues that what's called Tom's been having, even if Dan was to win the race, I think it's still enough for ETA to wrap up the championship here.
It is indeed, and now it's 3 wide down the straight, maybe down in towards turn 1, because Dan takes the race lead, Sergio and Matteo 2nd and 3rd. Really strange that. Ryan has drawn back the session. Whether or not he has any issues, though, is a different thing. Obviously, with ET8 Paul, that was completely different to what it is now. And Ryan had that issue, had an internet disconnection or something like that, ended up out of the session. Whether or not he can continue in this race, though, is going to be the big overhanging question for the man there down in P13. And in fact, Urpek ahead of him is getting the move done on Oku. And actually, they're side by side, I think, coming through turn 4 and 5, if I'm not mistaken. Still on board with the front leaders, though. Dan, Sergio, Matteo currently in the top 3. Ryan in strife. They're down in 15th. Has drawn back the session. If he's got any issues, it's not going to want to restart. We are...
sorry to cut in there. Contact, yeah, Urpek and Oscar in 13th and 15th. They lose several positions now with their bit of contact.
Yeah, what I was about to finish off there is simply too late to call any restart or whatever like that. Ryan just has to try and be dealt with the hand that's been dealt by the game, disconnecting them from the session, which is a shame. These things happen. It's technology at the end of the day. Things happen. But at the end, it's a completely different scenario to Paul. No restart or anything like that going to be called because it'd just be absolutely ridiculous from our perspective to call it. Matteo, though, and Sergio go for the race lead. ETA now 1-2. Where have we seen them have a 1-2 before? Oh, yeah, last week.
Yep, as Cameron Dow's down the inside of Yanel up in the P6 goes the Team Shazoo man, and Cameron Dow's and Tom have to work together and get a move on because not only have they got to get themselves a minimum in 4th and 5th, but they need to work together to try not only to close up on Matteo, Sergio and Dan. They run out of laps to do so, but also Tom with that 3-second time penalty, they need to try and build a gap for him as well.
And at this moment in time, as it stands, you do not need to be a maths wizard to sort out the maths right now. Sergio and Matteo have got 55 points coming their way. Shazoo, at this moment in time, if I'm doing my maths right, they've got 27, including the fastest lap point. Because Sergio, at this moment in time, leads the race, Matteo 2nd. ET8 are currently, at this moment in time, right now, before the end of the race, are currently champions as it stands. But Manlike has got everything to do with trying to bring Team Chazoo potentially back into play. Cameron Dowd in 6th, Tom in 8th, all on the back of that train. Manlike is controlling that train. Diaval's now ahead. Chazoo have got to think tactically whether or not they can bring this gap down. We saw it with FGE in Console 2, and in the end, in Console 1 here tonight, E8 1-2, looking really good. And in the end, like, if it comes to the end of the night and they are 1-2 and they wrap up the championship, you can't say it hasn't been deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. ETA absolutely flying. Obviously, the big spanner that could throw a wrench into the plan for ETA would be Dan if Dan decides to get his elbows out and start battling these guys. Lap 22 or 29. Mateo leads the way, Sergio in 2nd, Dan in 3rd as you
Janel trying to go around the outside of Diaval on the inside line. Janel takes the outside line, might get a really good run coming through turn 9 and 10. Is the Dutchman on for the move? No, he is not, and it is Diaval, the Frenchman, who holds sway in there in 6th position. Now, there's going to be a formation of an on-Tom Cordial because Tom is right on the back of Diaval, right on the back of Janel. Is Tom potentially going to look for the move? He's backing off in terms of ERS. He's got 100% battery, has Tom. He's just let these two battle potentially ahead. Is it smart for Tom to let him go with the gap to 6/10 of a second? I think it is, longer term. Shorter term, though, it's not going to be close enough, or is he? Down in towards turn 1. You know what? I've probably said that, and he's probably going to get the move done on both of them. Down in towards turn 1. Look at the overspeed. Tom coming like a scolded cat. Down the inside on a Diaval. Down the inside of Janel. Tom Roberts, absolute magician. To turn number 1. Job done. Should never doubt him.
Yep, Tom now up into P6, and now he can try and get onto the back of Manlike, who's just been overtaken by Cameron Dowds. I see ETA pairing have swapped positions for the race lead.
Yeah, Ryan, by the way, don't think can take control of his car. Is he in control of his car? Or is he not?
He's solid for me, but he is losing time like an AI would, so I don't think he's
yeah. So I think it's an AI. That will be a fixed rule, by the way, in Season 8, where we are going to try just bring everything up to date within the rules and regulations. I've been working through the rules and regs the last couple of days, and honestly, it is stressful work. It is painful work as well, but it's just to try and bring and get any loopholes covered going into Season 8, and especially going into the Challenge Cup that is coming out in November as well. But Sergio leads the way. Mateo in 2nd, Dan in 3rd. 2.5 seconds covering the top... 0.5 of a second covering the top 3. 2.5 seconds behind is Cameron Dowd right now. Cameron is leading the train at this moment in time. Sergio Mateo will not let at all, in any circumstance whatsoever, Cameron Dowd get back into this train. Or do they, to make it spicy for the championship fight? Am I just thinking a little bit too much there?
I don't think they'll allow that, but obviously the one person they have no control over is that man in P3 in Dan.
Yeah.
And Dan is just... Right now, he's driving his race. He's happy for the ET8 lads to just continue to swap positions right now. But you know, coming to the final few laps, that's when the pressure is going to be building up for Dan to not only get past Sergio, but also past Mateo.
Yeah, and the thing is as well with Cameron Dowd, what is against him, I think, in this race, not only... Well, I say that, it's 2.1 seconds now, so the gap is coming down. He has got very, very less ERS compared to Dan. 92% for Dan there, coming out of turn 7. Cameron Dowd, 67. 20% disadvantage. You want to have as much ERS as possible going on to the final few laps. Sergio at the minute on 70, Mateo on 70. So at the minute, Cameron Dowd is at a deficit in terms of ERS, on average, of about 10% in terms of his battery. Might not seem like much, but around a track like Qatar, where there is more straights in terms of kilometre length than there is in terms of corners, it's everything.
Yeah, but of course Cameron does have to use his battery to try and close up to this train in front. At the same time as well, he does have the fresher tyre, so he's trying to take advantage of having the fresher tyres to close in as well. But here goes Sergio back in the race lead. Dan, happy to sit in behind again?
I think Dan, honestly, has been the smartest driver out of this front 3. He has driven this race astutely, very, very well indeed. Really, really well. And I mean, he's on the back of Mateo, not rushing for moves, not wanting to get the moves done. But there is a big but. Cameron Dowd is beginning to close in on the fight. Dan is now is in behind Mateo, trying to preserve that track position. At what point do you pull the trigger from Dan's perspective and say, right, I want this race win, I want to try and upset the apple cart, I want to try and upset the E8 boys. In there in third position, he's doing great, but that gap has just come down half a second nearly. And Cameron Dowd, you know him within terms of his pace, he only gets quicker and quicker and quicker to the end. So I think if I'm in FRT's perspective right now, I'd be pulling the trigger and I'd be saying, right, Dan, you've got to go, try and upset the apple cart a little bit. We do not want Cameron Dowd in this fight.
I mean, yeah, I think Dan will have to try and get the move on at least one, if not both ETA drivers here. As Cameron Dowd has closed in half a second over this previous lap. And Dan is right underneath the rear wing of Matteo. He's going to get the move done on Sergio at least.
It's smart again. It is so smart from Dan, running down in towards turn number 1. He let Matteo go for the move, and then he's just covering every single move that an ET8 driver makes ahead of him. Honestly, maybe, I'm going to say it, maybe one of the cleanest drives I think I've seen all season here in EML. Maybe in all team events that I've covered on this game cycle. Really strong drive from Dan, but look at the gap. 1.4 seconds. Cameron Dowd, the only man that can stop him now is himself. Cameron Dowd having to try and wear out those tyres. 1.3 seconds. He knows this is on. This is everything now for him and for Team Shazoo. The shoulders now for Team Shazoo hold on this guy's shoulders here. On a 15-year-old shoulders.
Yep, Cameron Dowd's really putting as much pressure onto the top 3 as he possibly can, as he's 1.2, 1.3 off the back, and he could very well just be within DRS range as the detection point pops up, and no, he's just going to be outside it for this time, but
next lap.
He is closing in, like, as Meatloaf said, like a bat out of hell.
But at what cost? Because his battery's on 10%. He's trying to get within the DRS range. The DRS detection point, the next one, is not until turn number 1. So he's going to be potentially outside of that DRS range once again. Mateo's still leading the way. Dan in second, Sergio in third. Now all of a sudden they pull out 1.5 seconds on Cameron Dowd and Manlike. Manlike has got to work with Cameron Dowd. From an EVE perspective, and from probably a viewer's perspective, I know E8 are going to hate me for saying this. We want to see the championship fight continue on to the final round. It is not sim racing if you do not believe in that. Cameron Dowd is now within a second, but Manlike is his best friend right now. 62% of ERS, Cameron Dowd on 30. If I was him right now, I'd be swapping the positions, let Manlike do the work, catch me up to the ET8 boys, and then it's game on for a race, potentially a podium, maybe even a race win.
I don't think that's what Cameron Dowd is going to do, though. I think he's going to be happy just to save his battery up behind the top 3 and then go on the final lap.
He is. He's going to save his battery now. He's within a second. And judging by how quick he's caught them up over the last 3 laps or so, these guys' tyres might be beginning to hit the cliff. Remember, he's on fresher tyres as well, Cameron Dowd. This is going to be a nail-biter. These final 2 laps could determine what happens in the season here in EML. Matteo leading the way, Dan in second, Sergio in third, gives him a bump at the rear end saying, come on, you've got to work with me, because Cameron Dowd is now right all over the back of them. He's not going to be closing towards turn number 1 this time around. Now it's an ET8 1-2. And actually, no, it's not, because Dan goes to the inside line of Matteo. Matteo on the outside line, closing speed was everything. ET8 are going to try and hold a 1-2, but they've got to hold Cameron Dowd in behind as well. This is absolutely fascinating going on the final 2 laps.
Yeah, and now you're seeing ET8 starting to work together as a pair, trying to keep Dan behind, and Dan is trying his best to get through, at least on 1. But James, the final lap is going to be shoulders out, it's going to be elbows out, it's going to be who's going to have the biggest chest, that is for sure on the final lap.
Oh, definitely so. And in the end, ET8 with a 1-2, even with the controversy from 2 weeks ago with Paul. Even with the controversy, with that incident with Owen last week and Tom and him getting a lag warning, it does not stop ET8 from being at the top of the pile. Whether or not they're at the top of the pile come tonight at the end of this race remains to be seen. But right now, they have driven astutely well. They've got to try and isolate Cameron Dowd still there in 4th. He's on much younger tyres compared to both ET8 drivers. 2 laps to Matteo, 3 laps to Sergio. So this is going to be everything. Sergio now trying to settle the light, trying to now bring Matteo into play. Final lap of the race here. Sergio leading the way, Matteo in second, Dan in third. Murray Walker once said, anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does. What is going to happen on this final tour of the Losail International Circuit here tonight? Sergio and Matteo leading the way through turn number 1 for ET8. Dan there in third, Cameron Dowds in fourth, Manlike in fifth, Napple and Tom Roberts also fighting out for positions. Tom Roberts, of course, 6 seconds, I believe, worth of penalties, which he does have, and he could be dropping maybe outside of the top 10 as it stands right now. But Sergio leading the way, taking this race now by the scruff of the neck. Cameron Dowds tries to fight it around the outside line. Team Chazoo's difference, 43 points, remember, coming into tonight. Cameron needs every single amount of point he can get to try and stop ET8. Right now, as it stands, ET8 are taking a massive points haul over Team Chazoo. How is Cameron Dowds going to cope with this middle sector? How is ET8 going to cope with this middle sector? Sergio, at this moment in time, trying to stretch the field out. Matteo there in second, just trying to hold back slightly. ET8 have driven this race perfectly well. Dan there in third, might be the unluckiest loser in history. There in third position, Cameron there in fourth, Manlike there in fifth, as now they come through the final couple of corners in really a half-hearted look, maybe from Cameron Dowds in towards the final corner, but ETA provisionally, 1-2 out on track. Sergio to the line, takes the race win by 500th of a second. He slowed up enough on the line there. Matteo there in second, Dan there in third, Cameron Dowds not even on the podium in the end. It's whether or not where Tom Roberts ends up. That is going to be the main thing provisionally. Tom Roberts is ninth by the end of this race. Sergio and Matteo, 1-2, second week in a row for ET8. They put all of the hoodlums from Silverstone, all of the hoodlums, even from Belgium last week. Sergio and Matteo 1-2, and provisionally, ET8 are crowned your EML Console Tier 1 champions.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone can argue with ET8 being well and truly deserved champions. I do know, though, that Tom will definitely not be happy, as he had a lot of issues in tonight's race with the CPI period. So that could be a conversation in amongst the steward, and that is for sure.
Well, put it this way, Chazoo right now are going to be on the blower, certainly to their team managers saying, right, get this report in, get this report in, get this report in. It's not going to be over until we fight every single amount of points out on track. Diaval gets drive of the day awarded by the in-game fans. Solid drive there from the GT10 man. But in the end, ET8 take a 1-2 out on track. Phenomenal end. Do not want to hear any complaints from ET8 regarding what has happened in the past. What they need to think about is how they defend their championship, provisionally at this moment in time, going into the final race of the season. The pressure is now off. They can feel the weak lineup at this moment in time. Of course, with how this race, with how this championship has gone, anything is possible within sim racing. Anything is possible within EML Con 1. But in the end, ET8 provisionally are your EML Console 1 champions. The champagne flows here in Losail.
Yeah, and again in fashion as well, a 1-2 finish after getting a pole position as well with Matteo, and it just shows ET8's. I mean, we saw the graphic earlier of how well they've done over the course of the season, multiple race wins, and I believe only one race so far this season where they haven't been on pole position, so they've been showing their qualifying performance as well.
Yeah.
ET8 have just been absolutely impervious this season.
They have been absolutely impervious this season as well. Crucially for Chazoo, though, Tom Roberts keeps that fastest lap point. So Tom Roberts, fastest lap point, picked up 9 seconds worth of penalties at the end, including the penalty, I think, on the final lap of the race. My word, what a race that was. Was that a title decider? Potentially so. And in the end, ET8 take a 1-2 out on track. And I believe, out of all the results that we've had, is that ET8's second or third 1-2 of the season? I think it might be their third.
I think it's a third. I think it's their third, yeah.
Which is incredible, and I think it just speaks volumes to this graphic right here, which I haven't updated since the start of the stream. It's now, believe it or not, 8 pole positions for ET8, 6 wins provisionally for ET8, and also, with the podiums, 11 compared to 8 for Team Chazoo. That, I think, is defining in terms of how the season has gone. That one graphic, I think, is defining for how this season has gone. In the end, E8 deserve the world. They retain provisionally they retain their EML Con 1 championship. And of course, with them being P1, they get wildcard into EML season number 8, which, of course, with the promotion relegation, we thought how we might do it. First two teams, in the end, do get the wildcard, and in the end, ET8 have got one of those spots. Team Chazoo will have to do the maths for P2 and 3, but I'd be pretty bold in saying Team Chazoo have also earned that spot and a wildcarding for season number 8 in, well, next year. I was going to reveal it there, but I'm not.
No, we can't reveal it yet. We got to keep them on the edge of the seat now. We can't give them everything right now.
Exactly. We want to keep all of you guys at the edge of your seat, and in the end, it's a complete, I think, overall team performance from their engineers, from everyone behind the scenes, from their supporters at the end of the day. Each side at the end absolutely deserve it. And how they approach that race, I think, is how they've approached their season. They wanted to go absolutely hell for leather, trying to go for the moves, trying to get the moves done. And in the end, it was job done. Mateo, by the way, is asking for interviews. So, want to try and message him to see if we can get him in?
Yep. Let me just see if we can get him in.
I don't know how it's going to work, but we'll try. But what we can do, well, Mike, go on.
I was going to say, do we want to head down into the interview room now, or wait for responses now first?
I would wait for responses first. I definitely think Mateo will definitely be up for an interview. Not sure about Sergio, and who was top 3 again?
Dan.
Dan. I'm not sure if Dan will be able for an interview, but I know Mateo definitely will be. So, he'll be there. But what we can do, though, while we try and get all of that sorted out in the background, is take you through what is to come in EML. And there's only one round left. It's normally a championship finale. I put it at the end of the season, thinking it's going to be a championship finale. Provisionally, it's not. It's just a normal race in Brazil on October the 30th, the day before Halloween. It's not Day of the Dead season without a race in Brazil. How is everyone going to cope going into round 10, knowing, especially from ET8's perspective, that for now, the pressure is off?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we got Mateo saying yes for an interview. Obviously, we'll wait to see what Dan and Sergio will say. But yeah, pressure off at the moment for ET8. Obviously, they'll be able to give maybe some drivers that haven't had much opportunity yet to run in EML. Maybe give them a little run out just to see how they do, and if next season they can be featured a lot more and utilized a lot more.
Definitely. So, it might be the case where yes, and they will push to talk, which is the best possible thing ever. But hopefully, do you know what? Let's risk it. Let's go to the interview room and see if he can join. If he can't join, then yeah, we'll just take it from there. All right, I need to find the interview room. There it is. We're just transitioning across now to the interview room. Mr. Michael Edwards is in here as well, and we should be able, hopefully, to get Mateo in. First of all, has he got the role? Second of all, is he going to be joining us very shortly indeed in this interview room? But before all of those questions can be answered, let's have a look at what is to come in EML going forward into November. And after the final race of the season, Joes will be very happy. They get a 2-week break off, and then it is the EML Challenge Cup. It's Bahrain, round 1 of the championship. 2 races every single track that you see on your screen. Great Britain for round 2, Austria round 3, Singapore round 4, and then Brazil. Who would have thought Brazil would have been the final round of the season in the Challenge Cup as well? But I do believe we have got Mr. Mateo here. Mateo, can you hear me? And is this working, first and foremost?
Can you hear me?
We can! Oh, the joy. The joy. I thought we were going to have to go through an absolute world of pain to try and get him to talk there. But, Mateo, first of all, congratulations. 1-2 out on track. You played it absolutely to the book. You got your elbows out early on. You put Team Chazoo in an isolated position. Was that the plan all along?
Coming into this race, we knew we both had good qualifying pace. So starting on starting in a good position always puts you in a nice spot for the race. But actually, it was harder than we thought it will be, because starting 1-4, we thought we would have just been 1-2 some laps into the race, and from then on it would have been just keeping a gap to the guy in P1 and not allowing the others from behind to attack the leader of the race. So yeah, it wasn't as easy as we thought it would be, but in the end we still made it. We still made it work, and obviously it's the perfect reward for the hard work we've put in this season, and this is just the reward our team deserves, because it's crowded of a lot of good drivers, engineers, managers, who every day strive to make the team better than it was on the day before.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, because at the end of the day, nobody talks about those guys behind the scenes, the managers, the engineers, everyone who puts in probably effortless amount of hours just to try and get every single driver to their absolute peak. And that is what I think E-Tech have been so good at this season. Not only last season, defending your crown potentially from this season as well, but in the end, I think overall, one of the strongest teams on console, and overall, I think it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to get to see really how the hard work of all of that team has pulled off, and how you approached that season. And do you know what? It's actually refreshing to hear that as well, because at the end of the day, ETA potentially could have been up against it. Potentially could have had Team Chazoo right on their backs. They did for a bit part of the season, but in the end, drivers, managers, ETA, absolutely unreal, and a privilege to have them racing, of course, here in EML. But talk us more importantly, though, through how it feels provisionally to wrap up the standings for EML Season 7.
As I said, it obviously feels really good. But one thing probably that the most people don't remember is that winning a championship is one thing, but defending the title in the next season is even harder. Coming into this season, EML turned into crossplay, so an even higher level of challenge, because more good teams and good drivers arrived in this competition, and therefore, yeah, we had to work a lot to fend off our rivals. Obviously, as you mentioned, Team Shazoo was probably our biggest rival this season, because since the first race, they were up there with us. So yeah, every race we had to resist to their attacks and not make them gain ground on us in the standings. We managed to do it, because nearly in every race, I think, we increased our gap point after point. There was a point in the season where it didn't really go our way, which is Silverstone. I think so that we didn't really agree with what went on that race. But obviously we didn't give up, because in the end we still had the lead in the standings. Made the gap bigger in Spa with a 1-2, which was the perfect bounce back. And then, tonight was the perfect finale, because with another 1-2, the second in a row, I think, we wrapped up the championship. And as I said, there isn't a better feeling than this.
There definitely isn't a better feeling than this. Maybe getting a restart in Silverstone, and maybe Owen not getting his lag warning from last week from us in the stewards room. That is definitely just going to be overlooked. We'll take that away, and we'll obviously learn from our mistakes, of course, for season number 8. But in the end, with all that turmoil that you've had to bring up with the final 2 weeks there, with the issue with Paul, with the issue, of course, with Owen getting his penalty last week, it put you kind of on the back foot mentally, but in a really strong position, I think, physically, because you were 43 points clear going into the championship tonight. And out of all the season, you've wrapped up 8 pole positions, 6 wins right now, with Qatar obviously provisionally confirmed, and 11 podiums. So I think that graphic that I'm now going to put on the screen is pretty decent, showing the rivalry not only between you guys, but also between Team Chazoo.
The stats you mentioned, like from them you can see that it takes consistency to win a championship, and we know we've been lacking consistency in some other events, but this championship is the showing that even against a team like Shazoo, which at the end of the day is the same team in every event, we can beat them, and I really think so. We just stayed consistent, and as you said, Silverstone put us on the back foot mentally, but we still had the pace in Spa, and we brought home a 1-2. Then tonight, we knew that with a 1-2 we would have won the championship no matter what Shazoo did. And indeed, we approached the race not thinking about what Shazoo would have done. We just aimed to be in a 1-2 position as long as we could. And we made it work in the end because we didn't care about Shazoo at all during the race. We just did a race doing the best strategy out of the lot, I think. And it worked out. This is what I gotta say.
I like that because it's a bit of greed, I think, coming from ETA, not caring about Team Shazoo. You don't want to care about them. You're the provisionally champions going forward, of course, into the final round of the season. Mike, I have not forgot about you. Any questions for Matteo?
Obviously, massive congratulations to yourself and everyone in ET8 on provisionally wrapping up the championship here tonight. Of course, I mean, you mentioned about not worrying about obviously Team Shazoo and what they could do in the race, but I'm sure in the closing stages of that race, with Cameron Dow's closing in as much as he would, looking at FRT Dan in the mix, obviously potentially trying to get himself a win for FRT. Was that a concern for you too? I know obviously he was very consistent and he was driving incredibly smart in that race. Did that bring any concerns over to yourself or Sergio?
As you mentioned, Dan had really good pace, and it was actually really clever in this race because seeing that Cameron was gaining ground from behind, it didn't disturb us. He just worked with us in order to get a better final result for both us and himself. Because at the end of the day, it's useless to be in P1 on lap, let's say 22, if you lose time to the guys who are catching from behind. So it was really clever, kind of helped us in getting the 1-2. Cameron, as I said, was gaining a lot, but we knew that once he arrived in the DRS train, the tire advantage wouldn't have mattered a lot, like in clean air. So he catched us a bit late because we just had to let Dan past stay in a 1-2 position. That was it. Cameron only had like 2 DRS zones to do something, and it was just not enough to be a threat for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I want to pass my congratulations on to Sergio as well. Of course, a driver that has been improving considerably over the course of this game. And obviously, he did take the race win in the end. But I want to pass on my congratulations for him because I've been able to see the rise of Sergio in recent months, and it's been absolutely incredible to see him rise up.
Yeah, I thought. Go on.
I actually want to thank some people, starting from Sergio, because I know him since 2018, and to wrap up the title together with him with a 1-2 is just special. We got a 1-2 earlier last game in EML in Spain, but it's just not the same thing as winning a title together with him. Special thanks to all of the drivers of the team who raced. Usually, you maybe saw me racing a lot of races in the last game, but this game it's not the case, and all of the credit goes to the drivers who raced in this season, the engineers who did an incredible job all season long, and obviously all of the managers who build this team and make it better every day.
Sounds pretty good. Honestly, I think how this season has gone from an E8 perspective, absolutely incredible. I know it's not going to be at the forefront of your minds, but Brazil next week, how do you think you're going to get on around there? Knowing that provisionally at least the championship is wrapped up, the pressure is off, are you going to field an academy lineup like you did last season?
I don't think we're gonna go with the same lineup as last season. But yeah, surely it's a good chance to give some drivers race time. And yeah, why not let them have fun? At the end of the day, there's nothing at stake. So yeah, we'll see who's available for the race, and we'll just tell them go out there, have fun, make some moves, and yeah, that's it.
And if Tom's racing, maybe get the elbows out against him, given how he was racing head on track tonight as well. But seriously, from an E8 perspective, absolutely phenomenal. From an EML perspective, thank you so much for racing once again here in EML. Go and enjoy evening, go and have a cold one on us, and certainly celebrate what has been a fantastic season. That was Matteo. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Mike, and have a nice evening.
Very welcome indeed. And that, I think, is going to round us off pretty neatly with that interview from Matteo. Always fascinating, I think, to hear from Matteo. Didn't give him good luck vibes, by the way, for Monday in Texas, I think, in PSF1, because I know he's going to be absolutely bricking it going around there. But I think, in all seriousness, Mike, how E10 have approached the season? Managers, engineers, team, drivers, wouldn't be the same, I think, without having a really good story, a really good console side, fully console based, mainly on PlayStation. Some Xbox drivers also in there as well, I believe. But in the end, how they've approached the season has been nothing short of extraordinary. They've had trials, they've had tribulations. You would do in a normal EML season with the rulebook and everything. But in the end, they've approached this so well, and honestly, they deserve that title.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mean, we showed the graph in earlier of how ETA have performed over the course of the season, and not only with ETA as well, but many of the teams throughout the field and have approached it in the right manner as well. Obviously, whether or not they were at the front or whether they were battling for the tail end of the top 10, or even just driving around. Driving around just making sure that they do not retire after a bad race. For example, I believe Agonized didn't end up retiring in the end. I believe he did see the checker flag, if I'm not mistaken. So like even just going around doing that like that is always fantastic. To see.
Yeah, I was sort of waffling on a little bit with Mateo and just trying to think of questions to ask him, because obviously he has taken more of a managerial approach. He has taken more of a back seat here in EML. Obviously, he's racing in leagues as well, like PSGL and WOR sometimes as well. But I think it's really interesting from his perspective to see how that team has developed, how everything has gone on. And in the end, they absolutely deserve it. Commiserations, by the way, to Team Jazoo, because Team Jazoo have a really uniquely strong lineup, same as ET8 this season. And in the end, they may have come up short, but they can try again going forward into next season. If they want to sign up, they can sign up. If they want to compete, they want to compete. The door is always open to any team here in EML to try and compete. And with that, obviously leading into the Challenge Cup, leading into the final race of the season, more importantly, first in Brazil, how is that now going to approach? Because I mentioned it a little bit earlier on. The pressure is now off ET8, but in the mid team, in the mid pack, it's going to be a relatively interesting fight, because I mean the standings coming into tonight, Mike, were CPI on 160, Bunga Racing Team on 139.5, Team Extoria on 134. And in the end, you could argue all three of those teams had weak races compared to FRT and GT10 tonight. So that mid-pack battle from basically fourth all the way down is anybody's game.
Yeah, and obviously going into the final race, they are going to be coming in with a vengeance, obviously trying to make sure they finish as high as possible, because it's pride at the end of the day. I mean, they might not be winning the championship, but to be, maybe considered the best of the rest, for example. I mean, NLR dropped a lot of points as well with Ryan's unfortunate disconnection where he was unable to take control of his car. So, I mean, all the teams in the midfield will definitely be looking to be, best of the rest outside of the top two.
Yeah, and of course, with there being the final race of the season to come up in Brazil, it is going to be one fascinating race, I've got to be honest, there in Brazil. Pressure off for ET8. Team Chazoo there, obviously, in second. Wrapping up, I think, P2 at the end of tonight as well. NLR and CPR are going to be fighting out for that third position very richly, I believe, in Brazil as well. Of course, standings, all of that will be done during the week, hopefully over the weekend, hopefully done and put out there by Monday. Stewards, of course, I'm sure are going to be very busy in terms of some of the incidents, at least further down the field, especially with Tom and the CPI boys further down the field as well. But in the end, that is the end of tonight's live stream. Thank you so much for watching here tonight. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe. Tick that notification bell, of course, if you are brand new to the channel. With one race to go, we have a provisional champion. It is ET8 Esports. And this has been EML Console 1 with the final race approaching in Brazil. Then a break to the Challenge Cup. We, myself and Mike, will see you next week in Brazil for the season finale of EML Season 7. But for myself and Mike, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.